Perspective on Florida Gateway College Television is sponsored by Nutrien. Nutrien, feeding the future.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Perspective. This is a public affairs presentation of Florida Gateway College Television. It is also a public affairs presentation of WQHL and WCJX Radio, and we welcome the listeners to those two radio stations to our program today. How about retirement planning? Well, how about it? We've got two gentlemen who do this for a living. They're with Gulf Coast Financial. We have John and Blake Kuykendall of Gulf Coast Financial. We'll do that. We'll discuss what you need to know, how much you should save. These are all questions that I'm sure a lot of you toward retirement age are having. We'll do that when we come back.
All right, crew, let's get started. Sure.
Don't ignore the law. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 days before any digging project so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811.
Welcome back to Perspective on FGC TV. John and Blake Kuykendall with Gulf Coast Financial. Welcome to the program. John, it's been a while. You were here, I believe, when we first had the studio occupied, and it's been, I think, probably 5 or 6 years since you've been here. Welcome back.
Well, thanks, Mike. I enjoy being here and appreciate you having us back.
And we have your grandson, Blake, who is also working at Gulf Coast Financial. We're going to share some information. You've got young, and I don't want to say old, but mature here. So we're going to get a good perspective from whether at Blake's age, is that too early to really be thinking about retirement and financial planning for the future? But first of all, John, I guess retirement may be for some, but financial planning is something you do all of your life. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, financial planning is something that we should start very early. I think one of the problems that we've had in America is we really haven't educated our students and also our individuals enough about financial planning, about what they need to do with their money. And certainly in the last 5-6 years, we've picked up some new software, some technical things that we have now that really make it easy to do the financial planning that we do. I wish that had been around 5 or 6 years ago, like when I signed up for Social Security and the other things. So we're making big changes in financial planning. Well,
let me ask you, and again, this may be the mindset of the younger generation. And I hate throwing the younger generation under the bus, but a lot of the younger people want the immediate, I want this now, but you do that and disregard your future, because planning for the future is something that, I think, again, without throwing anybody under the bus,
right,
you got to have a mindset about planning for your future.
Well, one of the hard problems is, Mike, is that the millennial generation changes jobs about every 2 years. So based on statistics that are available, it's very hard for them to get involved in a lot of 401ks and financial planning opportunities, and they're changing jobs to do other things much more rapidly than prior generations did. So, I think that what we have to do is we have to be smart in how we work for retirement. We have to be smart with our investments, and we can't wait till the last minute to get started.
Now, so how do you, again, Blake, this may be a question for you, how do you convince younger people that do change jobs that you probably need to plan?
Well, I've been at mine for 4+ years going on now. It's not easy to stay somewhere. No, I'm just kidding. But it's honestly, it's just, there's so many jobs for younger people now. They're going to school. They don't want to stay in the same place. It's not easy to convince somebody to stay in that one specific, area or spot. they always want to younger people want to travel, so.
Yeah, and so how do you overcome that, John? Do you say put away, use the plan that the job you're in does, and then when you move to that other job, should that be a consideration of a millennial to say, hey, before you take this job, what are the pros and cons of taking this job?
Well, I think first of all, I think that a lot of people, when they switch from one job to the other, they will take their retirement money out and spend it because it's almost like free money. I was telling you earlier that, I read something last night that the average inheritance lasts 90 days. All the money's gone after 90 days because people have things they want to buy, they want to do. If we can put off with that immediate gratification and just continue to save, the wonderful thing about investing is compound interest. It's called the eighth wonder of the world by Warren Buffett. The compounding will just make your money increase that much faster. And if you start early, then you have that money continues to work for you, even though you're not adding to it. And certainly, most of the millennials, everybody now is just about eligible for a Roth IRA, which you put in after-tax dollars. So you put it in when you're not in a high tax bracket, and you take it out free along with the interest.
When you say an IRA, is that like a retirement account?
Individual retirement account. Senator Roth came out with this. It's where the money will grow tax-free. You put it in with after-tax dollars, and then you never have to pay taxes on it. It works really great not only for millennials or anybody. It also works really well for retirees.
Let's talk about that. How much money do you need? Because I think a lot of young people may say, well, my rent is this high, and I'm doing this, and how do you discipline yourself to say, all right, I'm going to make myself do this?
I think the main thing we're trying to teach a lot of our older clients, is the same principle would work with any client. They need a budget. They need to figure out how much money they need to live on, how much money they're going to spend on discretionary items, and then how much money they're going to save. But the thing is we need to pay ourselves first. After we've paid our rent, after we've paid for the car payment, the car insurance, all those things that we're required to have, then we need to make sure that we pay for that savings, that retirement savings account.
Okay, and Blake, maybe this is a question for you. When you talk to young people, they want to live well. Mm-hmm. They want to have a nice place to stay. They want a big screen TV. They want a nice vehicle. Insurance is eating them up, especially if they're young. Would you suggest that maybe if they can't put away with the job they have, that maybe they should take a second job? I mean, is that an option that you recommend sometimes?
Yeah, that is an option. I don't have a second job right now, but there's times where I should. Sometimes you need more money. I put away, a little bit of money into my savings account. I really haven't got onto the Roth yet. I'm 24 years old. I do have one open. I opened one, but I just haven't got to the point where I'm having enough disposable income to put money into it comfortably and not have to touch that money. So there's one of those options where, second job could always be handy.
And John, you and I were talking beforehand. Your lifestyle determines a lot of how you make these contributions to your future, your retirement, or even if you're doing this if you're starting a family and you want to start a college fund. So maybe you take your lunch. We were talking about maybe I take my lunch a lot of times, so I don't. And not to say that we don't have some fine restaurants in town, but that's an option that I think a lot of people in their lifestyle don't even consider.
Well, I think that's true. I think with all the free credit and everything that's available to individuals now, I think back, Mike, when I got married and got my first credit card, it was a Moz Brothers credit card. And there wasn't a lot of MasterCard and Visa and all that available. And they told me they would give me the credit. It was $500, but I had to pay it off every month. And so we did that, and finally, eventually, one day they took it away and opened the line of credit. But I can honestly tell you, since that time, I've never had a balance on a credit card. because I only spent what I could afford to spend. So there was a lot of times that we didn't have the answering machine, we didn't have the big screen TV set, but we got by and all our bills were paid and we still saved money.
Well, and let's talk a little bit about that too. You've got a credit card that Visa, MasterCard, Discover, they all let you, I think American Express is the only one who wants you to pay it off all at one time. But it's to their advantage that you don't pay it off all at one time. And so you're actually compounding their interest,
Right.
if that's a way to describe that.
Right.
Describe that.
Well, what happens is that, you know, they want you to pay the interest because they're arbitraging it with lower interest that they're getting. So they're making money on the transactions, plus the more you use it, the more transaction fees they get. But the big thing is that while you may be able to get that credit card at 3 or 4%, the first hiccup you have, the first time you lose your job, the first time something happens that lowers your credit score, that interest on that credit card is going to go to 24, 25, or 29%. And we've seen it happen. In our office, we've had clients who come in and this has happened to them.
And again, if anything in this first segment you can take away is pay yourself.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even if it hurts, you know. And again, what would you consider hurting? Like probably if you don't eat, probably be really hurting. But what would you say that a leisure activity that?
Well, I'm not sure that we have to go out and eat as much as we do. That's one of the major disposable things that people spend money on. Certainly, we can cut back on recreation. We can do things free. There are a lot of free things that we can do in recreation. There's also a lot of entertainment that's free. So I'd just say cut back, budget how much money you're going to spend, and then when you get to that point and you spent that much money, quit spending.
Yeah. Oh well. Pay yourself first. We'll continue our conversation on retirement planning. We'll start with Social Security planning in the next segment. Don't go away. You're watching Perspective on Florida Gateway College Television.
Planning the right amount of food is hard. The Guestimator makes it easy. Just tell it who's coming and what's for dinner. Then it tells you how much to make. And yes, it even plans for leftovers. Try it at savethefood.com.
Welcome back to Perspective on Florida Gateway College Television and WCJX and WQHL Radio. My guests on the program today are Blake and John Kuykendall. They're with Gulf Coast Financial. And again, we're talking about society in general and how people don't think about the future. I mean, obviously, John, when you get my age, when you get a little older, you start thinking, okay, I don't want to work forever. Even though, you know, some people do work forever and they enjoy what they do so much that they work. A lot of people don't have that job, that great dream job, and so they have to think about retirement. At what point do we need to think about your future in not working anymore?
Well, I think it's an individual thing. As you said, you know, I have that job. I was in banking for 20 years. We've been doing this now for 29. And I don't plan on retiring anytime soon. I like working. I work with my son and my grandson. I don't think it gets any better than that. So I really enjoy what I do. And I also leave early, so it's a great job. Nobody tells me when I can
when the boss can leave early, you know, and that's great. You probably work as long as you want, or as little as you want, depending on I mean, especially if you want to travel and go places. But so someone like me who is near retirement. At what point in their life should they have already been putting stuff away? You mentioned even at Blake's age, at 24, you should be doing it then.
Yeah.
But is there a time when the light goes off in your head and you say, oh, okay, I got to start?
Well, unfortunately, it hits most people too late. We have a lot of people that come in and say, you know, I want to retire, and we find out that they don't have enough to retire on.
Well, and let's step back now. How do you know? Do you put them through a kind of inventory of your property, your maybe your insurance policy and things like that, and see?
Yeah, what we do is we sit down. We have a financial planning software, and what it will do is it actually shows when we put in all your expenses and all your income, and we project out your Social Security income, it will tell us how long your money's going to last. And so what we call it is it'll show us the red. So then our job is to try to get the red out. And we can get the red out of the retirement plan. And what I mean by that is that right now most people, we have two problems. One is we're living longer, so we're going to need money longer in retirement. And you got to plan on if you're 65, you might as well plan on a 30-year retirement, because statistically, most people are going to live now into the 90s, even into the 100s. There's a real interesting story, sidetrack Mike. In Japan, they used to give a silver goblet to everybody that turned 100. They had to quit doing that because it was breaking the bank. Wow. So people are living longer. Secondly, medical costs are more expensive than we thought in retirement. I had no idea. The average couple can expect to spend about $420,000 in medical costs during retirement. So we project all that, and then what we try to do is figure out a way, either we save more, we work longer, or we rearrange the assets so that we can get the red out of that retirement account. But people certainly should start a lot sooner than they do. Really, there's no magic number. I don't like to say, well, your number's $1 million, your number's $2 million. It's based on the lifestyle. I've got people that live very comfortable with their lifestyle on $500,000. I've got other clients that have $2 million that will go broke if we ever quit working, and I've got to figure out how we can make them last longer.
And that's because the things
Lifestyle.
they're used to doing, and that may be traveling quite a bit, or it may be owning a Mercedes that requires a little higher maintenance fees when you do that.
Massages, nails, pool boy, just the insurance, all the other stuff that comes with it. You know what I
one
mean?
day I can say I have a pool. Just to say, that would be kind of a cool thing.
That would be great.
That actually means I have a pool. So, but no. And again, can you do catch up? I mean, I'm thinking maybe there's someone out there that is seeing this today and saying, I didn't quite do what I should have done, and now my wife is starting to have regrets about being able to have the kind of money. Is there such a thing as catch up?
Yeah, I mean, there is a way that we can. One of the things that the technology has brought to us is some tremendous software. So with the Social Security planning software we have, where we can show you how to maximize your Social Security, with the retirement planning software where we can show you how to maximize your retirement plan, and just getting a portfolio that is set to your lifestyle. The one thing we don't want to do is is we get close to retirement, we don't be so conservative that we don't make any money. I had an individual tell me one time that he was in the fixed account with FRS making 2%. And I said, well, when did you go in that? And he said, well, I went into the downturn. I was thinking 2008, that sounded pretty good, but it was actually 2000. So for 18 years, he'd been making 2%. Now, that is not the way to maximize your retirement.
Right. Let's talk about Social Security as a supplement. And again, Blake, you're so young. It's kind of hard to be talking to you about Social Security.
It's okay.
But how do you mentioned that there's a software out there. Mm-hmm. How can you say to a client, this is what's best for you based on the software that we have? This is when you should, because I think a lot of people don't know when to take it.
Correct. It's basically a software. You get a Social Security statement from SSA.gov. You bring it to us. Basically, we'll input that information from that software into this, or from the statement into the software, And basically it just shows us the best time for you to go to the Social Security office and file for Social Security. So it's basically getting the most out of it for you and what your needs are too as well. So that's also another thing. So
What is there a time that's better, or again, John, is it? I mean, I don't know. I'm looking at my income in retirement, and honestly, I never thought Social Security would be around in when it was time for me to retire.
Well, there is the software shows you the maximum. It'll show you what you would get if you took it now, and what the least amount is, and it shows you where the crossover is, so we can show you if you took it later how long it's going to take to catch up. The one thing about Social Security is it compounds at 8% per year after we get past full retirement age, up to age 70. So everybody wants to take it by age 70. There's no reason to delay it longer than that. But we can we can show you the maximum. Yes, there are many ways to file with Social Security. Social Security itself is not supposed to give you financial advice or tell you when is the best time for you to file. That's what this software does. And then we'll tell you how to go down to Social Security and tell them what you want.
Now, you have advised clients, and we talked about this before we came on the air today, that heard one thing and then the software said, "Uh-oh, that's not quite the way to go," and you've called these people and they've had to go back to Social Security and fix it.
We had one lady that had to go back to Social Security 3 times because she was divorced, and if you're divorced and you were married over 10 years, you can actually file on your former spouse's Social Security, and it doesn't go against them. They still get to file. But what it does is it delays you having to take yours. So in our strategy for her, we were going to take his now, half of his, and then we were going to let hers defer till 70. It was going to mean about $1,200 more for her, and it gave her $1,000 extra now for the next 4 years.
Now, John, I remember, and this is how old I am, I used to get a statement from Social Security in the mail, and it was kind of a reminder, wow, I've really been working that long, because you would look in and see when you started working, when the Social Security was first taken from your check. Now you can't do that anymore. It's all, you have to go online.
Yeah, you got to go online. They've done away with mailing out the statements. Once in a while we get somebody that got one, but most of them now are online. And if you don't have a computer or you aren't on the internet, we'll be more than happy to help you pull one up.
Now, Blake, the software is something special.
Yes.
I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's made it more simple, because I think you can show the client in real time figures that make sense.
Yeah, and Social Security also, it's based on what your needs are too at that moment. Sometimes Social Security, what is it, taxed up to 80% of it? It can be taxed up to 80%.
Up to 85%.
Yeah, so it's based on your income. There's a lot of factors that go into that, and we can put in that software as well.
John, I wanted to talk about tax considerations, because Blake brings up a good point, that even if you're on Social Security and that's your sole income in retirement, the government still wants some of that back. Yeah, Social Security, a lot of people think that Social Security is not taxable, but up to 85% of your Social Security is taxable, subject to how much income you make. So it's really important that in retirement that we keep our taxes as low as we can. One of the things that we just opened a tax service, Mike, and we're now doing taxes, and we have a software called Tax Clarity, which actually will show you what tax bracket you're in, because it's marginal tax bracket. So what we try to do is keep you from moving into the next tax bracket. We had a situation where a client wanted to come in and take out some additional money to do some yard work. When we ran it through our software, we found out it was going to cost her, it wasn't a lot of money, $10,000, but we found out it was going to cost her $4,000 in new taxes to pull that money out. So everything in retirement revolves around taxes, and what we want to do as retirees,
or as we're getting close to retirement, we want to make sure that we maximize our taxes, minimize the tax effect, and maximize the amount we're not paying.
Well, and again, we had the tax cut last year about this time in I believe it was February of last year, and so that has probably got people kind of concerned when they're doing their taxes, not knowing, am I going to get more back? My liability going to be higher? And so you can also talk them through that maze of taxes.
Yes, we can, and also, because of the higher deductibles this year, it's estimated that 85% of the people will not be able to itemize their taxes because the deductions are higher than what the itemization would be. People should be getting back a little more money this year because of those tax cuts, but it'll average out after this year.
All right, the conversation is about financial planning and Social Security planning as well. We've got John and Blake Kuykendall from Gulf Coast Financial with us today on the program. We'll continue our conversation and tell you how you can get more information about anything we've talked about in just a minute. Don't go away. You're watching Perspective on FGC TV.
When I was your age, I was just like you, fascinated by stars. But now I get to search for life in the universe. And who knows, maybe life is looking for us too.
So we're like aliens to them?
Yeah. Does anyone want to be a scientist now?
I do.
Awesome. We need more girls in STEM.
Maybe we can find aliens.
It's a maze, retirement planning, financial planning, and these two gentlemen on the program today trying to help you navigate that maze of financial planning. And again, John and Blake, thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you.
It's kind of tough sometimes for someone to say, I need advice. Do you find that sometimes, that people think they know what they're doing in planning for their financial future?
Yeah, I think that's true, and also a lot of people don't understand what they're doing, and they're a little bit embarrassed to come in and talk about it. But that's what we're there for. That's what we want to do. I can guarantee you that in 29 years we've seen most everything that's around, and we've been able to help a lot of people.
Well, I guess Geico has these commercials, or maybe Farmers has these commercials about, boy, I've seen everything from a moose getting in a swing set to, so I'm sure you have seen everything. Blake, you guys are located in historic downtown Lake City. It's the old, I believe it's the old Stewart Jewelers building, I think is what it was back in the
State Exchange Bank.
Yeah.
State Exchange Bank.
Yep. We're located down south, South Marion. It's North Marion. 248 North Marion. We're located in the building with the big mural downtown. We actually have our own parking lot as well behind our building. So if you need to come in and see us, and the other parking lot's full, we got Blanche construction going on right now, but
Well, and again, I was going to ask both of you about that. That's going to make downtown really sparkle. I mean, not that it doesn't now with the Hal Patter Brewing and the Marion Street that's going on, and the old Rowan's building now has got a client live in there, and so it's really going to bring something else, something to come downtown for.
Correct.
Yeah, it will, and we've seen a big increase in traffic downtown just with Marion Street and what's happening down there in Hal Patter's, and with the Blanche opening up and all the commercial stuff, it's going to be great. But like Blake said, we do have our own parking lot in back. It's fenced off parking for Gulf Coast Financial customers only.
Well, and if anybody wants to come down, it's complimentary, as Blake says.
It is complimentary.
Complimentary information where they will take a look at your situation and suggest where you should go and suggest what funds are good, and those funds are available for people depending on whether they want to catch up, whether they want a long term, whether they're in their 20s. They can all do it at Gulf Coast Financial. Thank you both for being on the program.
Thank you.
And I want to get a tour when your building is, when the Blanche is open. I want to come down and take a tour of your building.
Yeah.
Love to have you.
And thank you for watching and listening to Perspective on FGC TV. Until next time, I'm Mike McKee. Good night.